As you guys know, many public schools throughout the country are underfunded and public school teachers are not making much money. However, it turns out that some high school football coaches are making six figures. In fact, the highest paid football coach in the country at this moment is in Alabama, and he's making $125,000. He just recently got a raise. Now, this is Hoover football coach Josh Niblett. And apparently, it is such a competitive market out there. There's so many high schools that want to hire him that they're like, well, we got to keep this guy, so we got to give him six figures. Hoover football coach Josh Niblett received a raise earlier this month from $114,471 to a state best of $125,000 per year, according to Hoover City Schools. That marked the fourth time over the last 10 months that one Alabama high school coach's salary leapfrogged another to become the state's highest paid public school coach. It's amazing to me because this is not a situation where you're dealing with a private institution, right? If it's a private institution and they're not funded by the taxpayer dollars, then do whatever you want.
Do you?
Right? But when you're talking about a public school that's funded by taxpayers, how do you justify paying a coach $125,000? I don't care how competitive it is. What are our priorities? Are our priorities football or education? Think about how we're lacking in math, science, English, reading, all of these different categories that we fall behind in when you compare us to other countries. Think about the fact that we pay our educators. I'm not talking about sports. I'm talking about educators. We pay them a third of that salary.
Seriously. That upsets me.
How do you justify this?
Like you said, it's the priorities, and it's disgusting. You look at this and you think that this man is getting paid so much money on top of what potentially, if he is having, I didn't research how much the school has been winning or the teams that he's coached has won. But if they're winning and these kids are going off to college or to play for the NFL, he's getting incentives from the schools who are trying to pursue him, to get him to bring their students there. I mean, so this man is getting paid so much when you have a math teacher who's probably been working 20 years and is capped at $50,000 a year. It's just disgusting.
It is disgusting.
I mean, I looked at the Alabama teachers pay grade, just took a look at that, and it's with a doctorate and 27 plus years, $62K is that's the minimum. You could potentially make more, but I mean, how many public schools are paying teachers more than the minimum?
Exactly.
I would say not many. So that's ridiculous.
I mean, you have a PhD.
Yes.
You have a doctorate.
A doctorate.
And you're not making anywhere near $100,000, much less $125,000.
It's so disturbing. You know what? Listen, I love Friday Night Lights, but if Tammy Taylor was not making more than Coach Taylor when she was principal of Dillon High, I don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, this is sad. It's sad, and like you said, it's a discussion of, as a nation, what are we trying to instill in our young people?
Yeah.
What are we trying to tell them about what matters? And this in high school, you're so impressionable, and these programs become they're God to these schools. And I grew up in the South. I know how important athletics are to school spirit. I understand. I know that it brings a lot of money into schools too. I get that as well. But you just cannot act it just creates a culture within these high schools that really devalues, ultimately, education.
Education, exactly. I mean, I remember doing a story years ago at this point, I guess, about the illiteracy rate among professional athletes.
Yes.
Or athletes that are in college, right? They can't read, and they got college scholarships because of their, ties to any type of athletic department. And that is an issue, right? So as a country, we really have to ask ourselves, do we really care about the education of young people? Because it doesn't really seem like we do. We underfund these schools. We underpay these teachers. We literally take money out of private schools and we funnel them into private schools in the form of vouchers. And then we look at them and we say, look, they're failing, right? They're failing because you're leading them to fail.
Yeah.
You're creating a system for failure.
Yeah,
right. It's ridiculous.
No, there's a real perversion of principles in this country. And it's obviously led us, I think, down a path that we're all starting to take stock of. And I also think it's just the general, social media influences it. These people that wield unbelievable social media cachet and power and influence, and it's because of Kylie Jenner's lips.
I know.
Yeah.
Or, whatever it may be. And
She's
and
got
those
nice lips, though.
She does have nice lips. We discussed them at length. But I have to say that, those are the kind of people that, our children are looking to, that's a problem. And then of course, if they're looking at like, oh, I would like to make 6 figures someday. Well, I better not be a math teacher.
Yeah.
I better be Coach Niblett.
Unfortunate last name, but that's,
I know.
Look, I don't blame Niblett. It's not his fault, right?
No.
I mean, if someone offered me that money, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
What I blame is the school board, which got together and made this decision, knowing that, academics in Alabama isn't necessarily a shining situation.
I know.
What do you think people can do? I mean, obviously we can go to school board meetings and do that, but what other steps could we encourage people to do so that way this can stop?
I know that if I were a parent in that school district, I would
saw that number.
And I saw that number, and I knew that my child wasn't getting the quality education that he or she deserved, I would cause a ruckus. I would go to the school board meeting and I'd say, this isn't justified.
Yeah, the way you're allocating funds.
If you're paying an excellent science teacher $125,000 and he or she is having a real impact on my child's life, that's more valuable to me than a coach who's, I get it. Football's important. It's important to our society, but it's not as important as education. Sorry.
Completely. I agree. Parents rally. Parents rally.